Looking to visit South America for a quality ski trip this summer? Chile's La Parva is an under-the-radar option. While not quite as flashy as some of its neighbors, the resort's Euro-style village and local vibe have long been selling points for those who know the area. But is La Parva the right choice for your next Chilean ski trip? And why does it have so much less of a foreign presence than its neighboring ski areas? Well, in this video, we'll go through La Parva's overall mountain experience, and then we'll go through how the resort stacks up in our overall South American rankings. Let's jump right into it. With 988 claimed skiable acres and 1,650 acres from boundary to boundary, La Parva is somewhat modestly sized by North American standards, although it's still within the typical realm of what one should expect at a good Chilean ski resort. The resort essentially spans one big mountain face across a handful of ridges, resulting in several distinct mountain pods. The resort offers a very competitive vertical drop of just over 3,000 feet, although the bottom 500 or so feet are mainly just village access and learning area runs. Despite a handful of trees in the base villages, the skiable footprint is basically entirely above treeline. Speaking of learning, despite a well-insulated bunny hill, La Parva is not a good ski resort for true beginners. Green trails are completely non-existent outside of this bunny hill, with guests needing to advance to blue or harder terrain to ski or ride any mid or upper mountain areas. While La Parva's blue trails are somewhat easier than what one might find at a typical North American ski resort, most of them are either traverses or still steeper than those who haven't figured out linked turns might be able to handle. The nearby resorts of Parva and El Colorado are much better for those just starting out in their skiing or riding career. Speaking of blue terrain, La Parva becomes a more open mountain once visitors reach intermediate proficiency. However, the resort is still far from perfect for this ability level. On the plus side, guests can ski or ride the full vertical drop of La Parva on blue rated terrain, and these trails offer some of the best views at the resort. This all being said, La Parva's truly enjoyable terrain at the blue rated level is limited. A significant portion of the resort's blue-rated trail network, including all of the resort's blues in the mid-mountain, are traverses that are more designed to give skiers and riders access to reds and blacks rather than enjoyable trails in their own right. And most low-intermediate guests will find themselves wanting more. When it comes to La Parva's red terrain, these trails are best suited for advanced intermediate and just plain advanced skiers and riders. This terrain level is where the resort starts to seriously show its strengths, with these trails bringing out great steep groomer terrain. La Parva's red triangle runs are extensive in nature, with several existing off most of the mid and upper mountain lifts. Reaching the red level of terrain also unlocks access to 100% of La Parva's chairlifts. For the steepest groomed trails, guests will want to check out La Parva's black rated runs. While not quite as extensive as La Parva's reds, these runs provide an opportunity to tackle earnestly steep terrain and pick up some serious speed in the process. But for expert skiers and riders looking to really push themselves to the limit, La Parva offers a handful of designated Freeride zones. These mid and upper mountain terrain areas, which are shaded in purple on the trail map, offer an opportunity for ungroomed skiing and riding with some resort maintenance and safety control. Those looking to ski or ride steep mogul or powder terrain will have to check these areas out. In addition to these designated zones, some of the areas just outside the red and black runs also offer great opportunities for mogul and powder skiing when conditions allow. However, to really get the most out of La Parva, guests will want to check out the true Off-Piste. A number of excellent backcountry lines sit just outside the resort boundary, including some bowls and chutes you can traverse to without hiking. In addition, a variety of hikeable lines and touring routes are accessible from inbound trails, making the resort a standout for those who want to earn their turns and hit some incredible peaks. This all being said, La Parva's off-piste terrain is not maintained, patrolled, or marked by the resort at all, and avalanches can and will occur if you're not careful. Those looking to ski or ride these areas should have a clear plan for entering and exiting, avalanche equipment such as a beacon, shovel, and probe, and a partner or experienced guide if you aren't familiar with the route. Like other central Chilean ski resorts, La Parva receives reasonable snowfall on average each southern hemisphere winter, with accumulation figures that tend to range between 100 to 200 inches from June through September. Snow totals aren't usually quite as high as the nearby but higher elevation Nevado, but they are close. But where La Parva really stands out, provided you time the resort right, is in its snow quality. The higher altitude and arid climate typically results in light and dry accumulation when storms roll through, and while the quality of snow can vary, it's usually at least very good and can be absolutely exceptional, even beating that of the most renowned Utah resorts under the most favorable circumstances. Those who are properly equipped to explore La Parva's off-piste will be in for quite the treat, as the areas outside of the official trails can take days or even weeks to get fully tracked out. That said, snow accumulation at La Parva tends to be feast or famine. The resort may see some big storms throughout the season, but they're often followed by long periods of ample sunshine and drought conditions. In fact, the resort's season-long snow base is often formed off of just a handful of storms, with the quantity of snow these accumulation events bring playing a major role in conditions for the following days, weeks, or even months. La Parva's official trails maintain a baseline level of resiliency thanks to the mountain ops team, but in bad years, the conditions just off these maintained trails can be just about bare. As a result, those hoping to ski or ride the off-piste and chancing it during a bad year may be disappointed. But La Parva's strong on-mountain maintenance extends over to more than its physical ski ability. The resort offers significantly better signage than most other South American ski resorts, including neighboring Valle Nevado and El Colorado, with widely available English markings for foreigners and clear overall trail guidance. Also, unlike Valle Nevado and El Colorado, La Parva has readily available physical trail maps, which can prove very useful when you have some time to kill on the lift. If for whatever reason you need to speak with someone at the resort, English-speaking staff are generally available, although of course it does help to know some Spanish. Speaking of lifts, La Parva's uphill lift network feels modern compared to several of its Chilean competitors, although if you're coming from a more developed region, you might note some significant drawbacks. On the plus side, visitors can access a substantial portion of La Parva's terrain via chairlift, including much of the resort's expert and upper mountain terrain footprint. This is a comfort rarely found at other Chilean resorts, where surface lifts are the default. Surface lifts do serve some of La Parva's terrain, and guests will need to take the number 7 platter to reach the family-oriented upper mountain number 4 triple chair, but these surface lifts generally follow a moderate pitch and are reasonable in length. That said, just because La Parva has chairlifts does not mean they are fast. The resort has 2 quads, 2 triples, and 1 double, all of which are slow and fixed grip in nature. Some of these lifts are especially lengthy for what you might find acceptable, with the advanced-oriented number 1 quad having 200 chairs on it and involving a staggering 15-minute ride time. Those used to skiing or riding elsewhere in Chile might appreciate the relaxed ride compared to surface lifts, but those used to high-speed lifts, especially for rides that are longer in length, are likely to get frustrated. But luckily, La Parva's slow lifts are somewhat counteracted by the lack of crowds. Unlike Valle Nevado and El Colorado, La Parva is a lot more of a winter sportsgoers mountain, with substantially fewer tourists on the mountain as sightseers. This means that skiers and snowboarders won't be competing for space on the chairlifts. La Parva also benefits from its wide footprint, which helps spread out potential congestion on the slopes, as well as a number of lift redundancies in its most popular areas. La Parva also stands out for a strong on-mountain facility setup. The resort offers multiple mid-mountain restaurants with outdoor seating, with inviting setups by South American standards that give off a distinctively European flair. The Euro-style restaurants extend to the base village too, with several restaurants bordering the lower mountain pistes and more casual cafeteria-style food options as well. Digital nomads may want to take note, as there's a co-working space available at the Parva Chica base area. For those looking to soak in the natural beauty of the Andes, La Parva won't disappoint. From the upper mountain, visitors will be treated to panoramic views of the towering peaks above the resort, some of which reach over 17,000 feet. The Euro-inspired base and less touristy clientele also combine to make for a more local feel than La Parva's closest and best-known competitors. But if viewing the peaks of the Andes isn't enough for you, La Parva offers an extensive heli-skiing operation up to several of the mountains that extend well above the official resort boundary. The resort claims that over 200,000 acres of terrain are available to explore, and operations can get you to some of the most incredible untouched powder on the continent. But heli-skiing is also quite pricey, coming in at several $1,000s a day, so you'll want to make sure to financially prepare before putting the money down. It's also worth noting that La Parva is one of 3 interconnected ski resorts that make up Chile's Tres Valles region, alongside Valle Nevado and El Colorado. Although Valle Nevado is somewhat hidden in a valley over, portions of El Colorado are clearly visible from La Parva's southernmost terrain areas, which might make La Parva itself appear bigger and wider than it really is. While these 3 ski resorts have historically been independently operated, they are physically connected by skiable terrain under the right conditions, and as a result, it's possible to ski or ride between them. But despite their interconnectivity, all three resorts maintain separate lift ticket systems, and skiing or riding into Valle Nevado or El Colorado from La Parva does not necessarily grant you access to their lifts. However, La Parva and Valle Nevado are now under the same ownership, and as of the 2025 season, the two neighbors now offer a ticket add-on that allows skiers and riders to access both resorts on the same day. That being said, no full Tres Valles joint pass currently exists, and El Colorado continues to operate with a fully separate lift ticket. One way that La Parva is notable is that it's one of the only South American ski resorts to be on a North American Mega Pass product. The Power Pass and Power Pass Select offer 10 days of skiing or riding at La Parva a season, with the days shared and interchangeable with neighboring Valle Nevado. That said, the Power Pass is a much more regional product than its more popular competitors, mainly offering access to modestly sized resorts in the US West when it comes to the Northern Hemisphere. As a result, the Power Pass is not going to make as much sense for most Northern Hemisphere consumers as products like Icon, Epic, Mountain Collective, or even Indy. One of the biggest considerations when planning a trip to La Parva is how you're going to get there. The drive from Santiago may appear manageable on paper with a travel time of under 2 hours, but in reality, it's a challenging, high-altitude mountain route unlike anything most North American drivers will be used to. The road is extremely narrow and winding with over 24 hairpin turns, and while the route to La Parva isn't quite as crazy as the full road up to nearby Valle Nevado, it still involves a rapid elevation gain of roughly 6,000 feet. If a snowstorm hits, chains are required, and conditions can deteriorate quickly. Police checkpoints along the way are common, and they're there to verify that drivers are either carrying chains or staying at a resort. Due to the road's difficulty and heavy weekend traffic, the access road is converted into a one-way route on weekends and holidays, with uphill traffic only from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. and downhill traffic only from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. Travelers should plan accordingly to avoid being stuck at the wrong time. At least parking isn't a big issue at La Parva, with a convenient main lot near the base and an overflow lot in case things get busy. If you're not experienced with driving in the conditions we just described, we highly recommend booking a private shuttle from Santiago. While some taxis will be happy to offer rides, they frequently lack proper snow equipment. 4x4 van operators like Ski Total are a safer bet, but it's important to confirm passenger and luggage details ahead of time, as overpacked vans can be an issue, especially on return trips. Because of the road's challenges and scheduling circumstances, most travelers visiting La Parva for multiple days opt to stay on mountain rather than attempting a daily commute from Santiago. But unlike neighboring Valle Nevado and El Colorado, La Parva does not have any traditional hotels within its ski village proper. Accommodations at La Parva itself are limited to self-catered condos, apartments, and private homes, but unlike at some competitors, which only allow fixed arrival or departure dates for their lodging, many of these homes do offer flexibility in the days you can arrive or depart. These condos are on the expensive side, but they're very conveniently located and often ski in, ski out, and if you have a group, you can split the cost and get a reasonable deal for the number of beds available. It's also worth noting that if you want cheaper accommodations or true hotels, several options are available down the road in Farallones near the El Colorado base. When it comes to Après-Ski, La Parva's base village provides a solid foundation. The resort's Euro-style restaurants and bars are great for a post-ski drink or meal, and a couple of mid-mountain chalets offer scenic après opportunities as well. However, the resort is still fairly small and isolated, and while the après scene is enjoyable, it's geared more toward low-key socializing than late-night parties, and as a result, visitors hoping for a lively nightlife scene may want to look elsewhere. So La Parva isn't the most well-known ski resort in South America, and it's not the most modern either. But for those looking for a Southern Hemisphere ski trip with incredible freeride terrain and an escape from the crowds, La Parva is hard to beat. Last season, one-day adult lift tickets went for 74,000 Chilean pesos, with a significant discount available if you used a Visa card. Although the change in ownership may bring some age tier changes, we expect similar pricing this winter, making for a decent value proposition for what you get. Now let's go through how La Parva stacks up in our overall rankings, which are determined by the following 10 category mountain score. La Parva sees hit or miss snow quantity each season, but it gets some of the lightest and driest snow in the world when conditions line up, getting the resort a 6 for snow. La Parva does have some maintenance capabilities that ultimately keep its marked trails in decent shape, but warm spells notably hurt the advanced and freeride terrain the mountain stands out for, and the resort gets a 5 for resiliency. La Parva measures in at 988 skiable acres and a 1,650 acre total footprint, getting the resort a 5 for size. La Parva's lower ability terrain is largely forgettable, but things get more interesting the more experienced you become, and the resort gets a 6 for terrain diversity. La Parva stands out for particularly demanding freeride terrain, including some lift-served chutes, couloirs, and mogul fields, getting the resort an 8 for challenge. La Parva has a well-maintained and generally easy-to-ride lift fleet, but all lifts are slow, and the resort gets a 3 for lifts. La Parva can see the occasional line on busy days, but traffic is nowhere near the levels of many competitors, and the resort gets an 8 for crowd flow. It's pretty easy to stop in for a break from most areas at La Parva, although some of the mid-mountain lodges are on the smaller side, and the resort gets a 7 for facilities. La Parva does have some annoying traverses, but signage in on-mountain directions are very strong for South America, and the resort ultimately gets a 6 for navigation. And finally, mountain aesthetic. La Parva offers stunning views of both the mountains above it and the huge Santiago metro area thousands of feet below, getting it a 9 in this category. These categories add up to an overall score of 63, placing La Parva 3rd in Chile and 4th in South America as a whole. La Parva is somewhat smaller than its primary competitors, and the slow lifts are a drawback versus the few somewhat modern resorts of the Andes. But the resort's strong crowd management is a significant benefit over other major resorts on the continent, and the demanding freeride terrain really doesn't hurt either. La Parva probably isn't the South American ski resort you want to take your inexperienced friends or family to, but for a crowd-light experience in the days after a storm has rolled through, it's a great choice. For more information on La Parva and over 100 ski resorts around the world, check out peakrankings.com. Special thanks to our Peak patrons, and see you for the next one.